The San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance is working all over the world to help with animal conservation efforts. They have dedicated team members trying to bolster depleted populations of some wild animals. And CBS 8's Netta Iranpour shows us what they've been doing in Kenya to ensure that both animals and people can coexist in this Earth 8 report.
Imagine nothing separating you from a lion, hearing that roar and coming face to face with what's considered the king of the jungle. Or how about seeing a rhino out in the open? That's life in northern Kenya.
In Kenya, the majority of wildlife lives outside of national parks.
Which might seem wild to us considering the variety of wildlife in Kenya. Animals most of us might only see at the San Diego Zoo and Safari Park.
So something like giraffe, you could see ambling across the savanna. For something really more elusive like leopards, those are of course harder to see. They have different times of the day and evening that they're out hunting.
Kirsty Rupert frequently travels to Kenya with her colleagues. She's the Associate Director of Conservation Science and Community Engagement with the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. They work with the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. That's about 160 miles north of the Kenyan capital of Nairobi.
And in those spaces, wildlife populations, like many places around the world, face pressures. And those pressures often are tied to human activities.
Lewa connects the forest of Mount Kenya to rangelands, allowing these majestic animals to roam freely in search of food and to mate, even if there is a highway in the way. That's because they created a highway underpass to serve as a wildlife corridor. And as they count the animals one by one, they have found their corridor is helping improve populations.
Kenya is a global leader in community-based conservation models. Wildlife conservation is part of their national heritage. They're living with wildlife, and so their understanding of wildlife is rich, and we have so much to learn from the ways that they're living with wildlife.
Since we're here next to the giraffes, tell me why it's so important for people to come see them and learn about them.
Support for San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance directly funds our conservation programs, and more importantly, it means that our community here can experience these majestic animals. In a lot of ways, people probably won't be able to travel to a place like Kenya, so seeing and connecting with giraffe here is an incredible way to build support for wildlife conservation here and abroad.
Oh, I know what's not to love about these animals.
Look how big he is, look how tall he is.
With every family that stares in awe, every child who asks questions, and every photo taken at the San Diego Zoo, there is growth in the wonder and appreciation for animals, which is also critical for their survival. Because despite efforts by conservationists, they do say the planet is losing a lot of wildlife habitat due to climate change and, well, humans.
Understanding those giraffe population numbers over time help us to mitigate some of these pressures that giraffe populations are facing, such as linear infrastructure, roads, fences, railways.
Kenya's population went from 22 million in 1989 to more than 55 million people this year. As neighborhoods grow, they're working on ways to coexist, so animal numbers can also grow. Proof they can coexist is in the numbers. Wildlife authorities in Kenya found elephant population grew from about 16,000 in the late 1980s to nearly 37,000 last year. Black rhinos have increased from fewer than 400 in the 90s to now more than 1,000 today, while lions are up to 2,600.
The key to conservation in Kenya is finding ways for people to live with wildlife and making sure that these landscapes are connected and managed holistically. And so the partnerships are really central to conservation in Kenya.
Local scientists helping guide conservation by way of corridors, a world away. For Earth 8 at the San Diego Zoo, I'm Netta Iranpour.